Cities that resisted were burned, armies annihilated, entire populations displaced. Among the countless victims were women captured when their cities fell. But what really happened to these women? Was it only cruelty and suffering, or was the reality more complex? To understand their fate, we first need to understand how the Mongols waged war. Mongol strategy was built on speed, terror, and psychological dominance. When a city surrendered peacefully, it was often spared mass slaughter. When it resisted, consequences were devastating. Survivors were divided by age, gender, and skill. Men of fighting age were often executed. Skilled artisans were sent across the empire. Women and children were usually taken captive. For many, the immediate reality was enslavement. In the Mongol system, slaves were property, but also economic assets. Women could be distributed among soldiers, sent to noble households, or incorporated into the empire's labor system. Some were forced into domestic service, working as cooks, cleaners, or caretakers in camps and cities. Others were assigned to agricultural or craft labor, especially where Mongols settled permanently. However, the Mongol Empire was not uniform. It stretched from China to Eastern Europe, absorbing cultures. Treatment of captives varied depending on location, local customs, and the Mongol commander. In regions that surrendered without resistance, women were not treated as harshly as in cities taken by force. Marriage and concubinage were also part of the picture. Mongol elites often took women from conquered peoples. Sometimes this was an assertion of dominance, a symbol that the conquered land belonged to the victor. In other cases, these unions had political motives, legitimizing Mongol rule and reducing rebellion risk. Over time, some women gained influence within the court, especially if they bore sons. It is important to remember that Mongol women themselves held significant power within their society. Steppe traditions granted elite Mongol women authority in managing camps, finances, and political affairs. This influenced how foreign women were integrated. Many endured hardship, but some rose to stability. In places like Persia and Central Asia, captured women were absorbed into urban households. As Mongols transitioned to rulers of vast territories, they adopted aspects of governed cultures. Under Kublai Khan, the empire became more bureaucratic. Female captives worked within palace systems. Yet it would be dishonest to ignore the violence. Accounts describe forced relationships and trauma. Women were uprooted, transported across vast distances, placed in foreign environments. The fear and uncertainty they experienced cannot be overstated. Reprisals could be severe. At the same time, the Mongol Empire was pragmatic. Leaders valued loyalty and utility. Skilled individuals, regardless of origin, could improve their status. Some women used intelligence, language skills, or connections to navigate their new reality. In rare cases, captives married into influential families, securing safer futures for themselves and children. Children born of these unions often grew up as part of the Mongol ruling class, blending cultures. Trade and movement across Eurasia also changed lives. The Pax Mongolica reopened the Silk Road. While remembered for commerce, it also meant captives could be transported thousands of miles. A woman taken in Eastern Europe might end up in Central Asia, one from Persia, relocated to China. Religion added another layer of complexity. Mongols were relatively tolerant of different faiths. Captive women often retained their religions. Religious leaders negotiated for better treatment. Over generations, the sharp line between conqueror and captive began to blur. Mongols intermarried with local populations, their descendants ruling as hybrid elites. In Persia, the Ilkhanates became increasingly Persian. In China, the Yuan court adopted practices. Women of diverse backgrounds became part of this evolving social fabric. What began as captivity sometimes evolved into assimilation. Still, we must not romanticize the reality. For countless women, captivity meant loss. Many had no choice in their new roles. The trauma of conquest left scars. Historical sources often focus on rulers, but behind those narratives were ordinary individuals. The image of Mongols is often one of brutality. While true, the full story is more layered. The empire relied on administration, adaptation, and integration. Captive women were part of that process, whether as laborers, household members, political brides, or mothers of future leaders. In examining what really happened, we find no single answer. Experiences depended on timing, geography, status, and chance. Some faced extreme suffering. Others navigated complex new worlds and found ways to survive. A few even gained influence in the highest circles of power. History rarely offers simple narratives. The story of these women is one of resilience amid upheaval, shaped by one of the largest empires the world has ever known. By looking beyond the battlefield, we gain a deeper understanding of the human cost of conquest and the complicated realities hidden behind the rise of empires.